Well, hello everyone. This is Timothy Wenger here from The Man Effect, and today I have an amazing guest. Kenny, I'm not sure if I can actually pronounce your last name, so I'm not going to try, but you're from The Man Whisperer, and
Yeah.
why don't you give me an explanation of how to say your last name first of all, and then we can go from there.
So I used to be a nice Catholic boy, and my parents named me Kenneth Joseph Francis Terence Dominic D'Cruz. It's
Oh
like,
my
what?
God.
All the saints, what is this? It's crazy. And then when I got married, my wife asked me to marry her, what, 3, 4 years, probably something like that. We've been together 15 years. And then
Uh-huh.
I just thought, what's going to happen with the names? Because her name's Marmarella,
Uh-huh.
which means little mother, and she's Italian.
Okay.
My name is De Cruz, which
Mm.
was De La Cruz, which is Portuguese, which is off the cross. Talk about cross to bear. So we just thought, stick them together because we didn't want her family script and we didn't want my family script. So we thought,
Uh-huh.
we put them together. This is our name and this is our life path, and we can create it from scratch. So
Uh-huh.
I'm a Marmarella-D'Cruz now, which
Uh-huh.
is like syllable city.
Yes.
And the Man Whisperer thing was the biggest shock.
Mm.
Newsweek contacted me. They were writing a cover story article about men and mental health and suicide. So
Mm.
they interviewed me for the story.
Yeah.
Next thing I know is they've written a book about men, mental health, and suicide. They've
Yeah.
written a whole chapter about my work in the book. And they
Yeah.
called me the Man Whisperer. It's like, where did that come from? It's outrageous. Really, really cool. So I was very, very chuffed about that.
And you're fortunate enough that the domain was open
Yeah,
and got it
I bought
going.
it. Couldn't
Yeah,
believe it.
that's
I also
incredible.
got the trademark.
That's
But,
insane.
how long will I be the Man Whisperer? I don't know. Because I find things pass, things move on.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and in the last few years, I'm 53 now, since turning 50, for some reason, it just got into my head, I need to pass it all on.
Hmm.
So I've been training people to run men's groups, men, women, therapists, whoever, coaches, and
Yeah.
it's been going great. They've
Hmm.
been launching their own groups, they've been running their own stuff. So it's the Man Whisperer might be a murmur in the background to give space for other people in time,
Hmm.
but it's like there's a lot of change going on.
I love
And
it.
I love to support the way that men are getting real,
Hmm.
getting authentic, stepping up and being who they are,
Yeah.
way beyond the shoulds and the nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it really I appreciate people who are trying to work themselves out of a job
Yeah.
because it shows a certain level of security. Does that make sense? When you don't need to be in
Totally.
the spotlight all the time, that's a good sign, in my opinion.
And the weird thing is, I find that most of my male friends, my own personal close male friends,
Hmm.
they don't do social media,
Hmm.
any of the channels.
Uh-huh.
Some of them don't even do emails. They wouldn't know who's in the spotlight. I
Yeah.
haven't watched TV for decades unless
Yeah.
I'm at someone's house and there's a special game on.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. For me, I love the way that people will do things for the love of it or the
Mhm.
truth of it, rather than if I do this, then I've scored brownie points, then I'm in with this. That's
Mhm.
conditional. That's not love.
Yeah.
That's fearful manipulation. And I know because I used to be a fearful manipulator. It
Yeah.
was survival in the old days.
Mm.
But yeah, things are really changing. And I guess one of my biggest fears with my private work, so I run men's groups, I also see men privately and I train people.
Yeah.
One of my biggest fears before I went into private work was that people would give me their power,
Mm.
I find a lot of men are so eager to hand power over to the leader or the
Mm.
alpha or the father replacement or the big brother or the guru or whatever it is, and it's like, I don't want your power. You need
Yeah.
to have your power,
Yeah.
and I need to come in when it's time, help you turn things around, and then you walk off and you
Yeah.
live it and
Yeah.
you pass it on.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible business model.
Yeah.
But then it's not about business. It's about life.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I would say the last 6 months, I've been dabbling with the idea of getting more in the coaching realm, and I really don't like how centered it is on the coach.
Yeah.
And so I created this program for two men to walk through a self-coaching program together. So that way they learn how to have relationship with another man, and then at the end they have the option to have someone continue life with.
Yeah.
But I haven't had the capacity to get it off the ground. But that's something that I've really seen as a need. Just like you're saying, men give their power away so easy. And it's like teaching them not to give it away, but to maintain it and to grow it and to keep moving.
Step into it,
Yeah.
share it, and know when to step down as well. Pass the ball.
Yeah.
When it's time to pass the ball.
Yeah.
But when it's your time to strike, you strike.
Yeah.
And that's the collective consciousness.
It's in my mind, it's almost like asking a question. You can tell when someone asks a question if they've actually thought about it, if they've actually sought it out, or if there's just this amount of weight behind a question. And I feel like power is very similar. Like you can tell when someone's fought for it, when they've tried, when it's time to ask for help, when it's not, So.
And in a strange way, for me, it's feeling, is someone doing something, or are they coming from their being and just showing up, sharing it? Is it an act? Is it something that's being inflicted or something that's being shared?
Yeah.
And one thing that you said a couple of minutes ago that I think is so spot on, when you talked about it sounded quite similar to co-counseling, this coaching program.
Yeah.
I would say that one of the biggest things that I work with, whether men realize it or not, is isolation, loneliness. Even if they're surrounded by their teammates or their drinking mates or their family or the people they call themselves, them friends that they might have grown up with, if they're not connected with, most men don't have a real friend that they can tell the truth with, be an absolute arse with, be scared with, be angry with a lot. And it's tragic.
Yep.
So same with your coaching program. I find with the men's groups, there are open groups and there are closed groups, and the men really get to know each other.
Yeah.
And they can choose their friends, and they can choose who to go traveling with, or who to be in a group with, or who to call to their whatever it is. And it's so, so, so important. And I wonder how much of this is the immature male, which for me is more about the doing and the surviving and the competing, versus the mature male, which for me is so much more about the living rather than the surviving, and the being rather than the doing. But it includes the feminine, which is the collaboration, the love, the receiving, the communication, etc., etc. And I would say that sadly around me, whether it's leaders of men or men needing leadership or just blokes, most men don't know how to be a man, but they know how to do a good act, or how to do survival, or how to do boy, and what it looks like. Because if they've never really experienced a good relationship with depth or the company of good men, then who can blame them not knowing how?
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote a piece a while back on male friendship and how it's really how we have relationships with men is actually a display of our masculinity. And so some men, say you're atypical alpha-esque iron pusher, you're going to continue that reputation by having men who are very similar to that, and it will probably not be very deep emotionally, right? But that's what you're displaying and the persona you're carrying. And I found it really interesting the more I dug into the topic, how much I personally value the strength I find from the diverse friend group I have.
Yeah.
And how it's really pulled me through in some very, very difficult times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I,
But then, is that to say there is a wrong way? Because I would say the boy that I was, the fraud that I was, the
mm,
everything that I was probably perfect for that
mm,
phase of my life.
yes, yeah,
Plus, I needed that experience.
yeah,
Plus, in how cosmic can I get?
yeah. As go for it.
So this is my little fantasy. I'm even uncrossing my legs and sitting up. My little fantasy is before coming down this lifetime, I agreed that there are certain things that I would learn.
Mm,
There are certain experiences I would have. There are
mm,
certain things I'd unlearn. There are certain contributions I'd make. And there would also be certain people that I would interact with
yeah,
and probably have a lot of love and also a lot of pain, and
yeah,
probably the same people for the both.
yeah,
So if those are the agreements that I made of my own free will, knowing that when I come down, I have to leave a lot of my awareness there, because if I bring the awareness down, then I wouldn't get the experience because I know too much. So
mm,
my little fantasy is, if that's the case, how do I remind myself or make sure that I don't miss out on all these commitments that I want to
yeah.
have as my experience? So my
Interesting.
fantasy with that is, if I allow or agree to certain dramas, pain, stuff
Mm,
ups, whatever it is along the way in my life, then
mm-hmm,
I cannot ignore that pain.
mm,
And at some stage, I will give myself the choice to unlearn that pain. And this is exactly what I do with my clients: is what is life telling? What's the picture? And
yeah,
when they find the places where their pause buttons are depressed or their spirit was broken, that they need to unlearn and set themselves free,
yeah,
then every time, without fail, they pick up a tool that helps them on the next stage of their pathway. So
yeah.
it's almost as if it's and my fantasy so far has worked a treat. It's
Mm,
almost as if it's encoded or hidden
mm,
behind the story. And the
mm,
thing that you were saying about stories, I think it was just before we started or just as we started, it's
yeah,
like, yeah, it's spot on. What is your story? Why
yeah,
is your story? And who might you be beyond your story?
yeah.
And in the men's groups, people talk about themselves, they talk about their stories.
Mm,
But there's only one lot. I totally rate the 12-step programs, whether it's narcotics or alcoholics or sex addicts or whatever it is. The 12-step program rocks. I
mm,
haven't done it. I've suggested a lot of people go, and I know a lot of people in the 12-step program. But
yeah.
the one difference I would say between my groups and the 12 steps is, when 12-step men come in, at some stage I need to remind them
Mm,
that it's not about their story anymore. They can tell the story, but having the most dramatic
mm,
story
yeah,
will not make them popular.
yeah,
Crying out loud and howling and beating their chests inauthentically, yeah, it works great in some groups, but it's not the way. This is the place to experiment with who you no longer need to be and
mm,
who might be beyond your story.
yeah,
So for me, the story is so valuable for me to know myself and decide which parts are no longer true that need to go, and make space for me to show up and grow and take part and keep evolving.
mm,
And that's vulnerable.
yeah. The picture I just kept getting the whole time you were talking about this was about growth and the story is just I could only see a tree, and it's like you don't belittle a tree for its origin.
Yeah,
You belittle a tree that stops growing because it dies and
yeah.
it becomes firewood, you know? And so it's like if a man is willing to continue the journey of growth, that's really at the core of almost everything,
Yeah,
like in my opinion, because I can't belittle a child for having childish ways, but I can
yeah.
belittle a man who's chosen to stay a child in some
That's a funny
extent.
one. That's a really funny one, because I can feel the same very much.
Yeah.
And I choose my company very, very, very carefully. I
Mm,
value my time more than anything.
Mm.
And I believe that we are products of our environment, whether it's
Yeah.
internal, external, historical,
Totally
whatever.
with you. Oh yeah.
With that, I need to be clear about who's in my environment, but I've also needed to accept and respect where people choose to be,
Yeah.
irrespective
How
of how
interesting.
good, bad, ugly, lazy, pointless, destructive, etc., etc. Because it's like,
Amen.
yeah, and also they've got the rights.
Yeah.
Why should I say no? You should do what I'm doing because
Yeah.
I'm doing it, and if you do it, then surely I'm right and I'm top of the ladder. No,
Yeah.
bugger it. I have to accept all these people exactly where they are
Yes.
and deal with the trigger in me, and also deal with the jealousy of I'm working so hard. How dare you have such a simple, easy, good time? It's not fair.
Yeah.
But if
Oh
their
man.
life experience is a rest life or
Mhm.
a bum life, then you need to have the experience of being a bum. If
Yeah.
that's your choice and that's your path right now for however long you need to. The other one I used to judge as well was people not being, I don't know, emotionally connected, self-aware,
Mm.
generous, sharing,
Mm.
etc.
Mhm.
Until I realized, well, actually, if they haven't got that in themselves, then how could I expect them to share it? You
Yeah.
can't share what you haven't got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my God, have I had to grow up. And I have kicked and screamed and fought every step of the way.
What I like is I love how wrong I am.
That's
And
where the growth is, isn't it?
yeah, I remember years ago, I just got into some sort of school and got in a room, and the person I judged the absolute most in my head ended up becoming my best friend. And
Ain't that the way?
and it's been a continual reminder of my judgments are completely wrong, to me over the years, and I value that relationship so much.
Yeah,
Um, so that's what's so funny to me is there's these um, monuments in my life. Let's just say, of
yeah,
Tim, you were wrong.
yeah, yeah.
So
And maybe I know that when I have judged, I've had exactly the same situation where people, someone at the door.
you can go get it if you need
Let me
to.
quickly go and get it. I'll be one
Yeah,
sec.
yeah, no worries.
Yes. There you go. Thank you. Bye. Yeah, what I've found that's really pissed me off is the blokes that I have judged the most and properly, not only disliked, but chosen to properly dislike, even to, in a way, punish for being around me. They have become my best friends.
Yep.
Um, and maybe the dislike was a charge. I felt something, and
Mhm.
this feeling, it's like, this is too vulnerable. Therefore, I'm going to, what's the word, declare war.
Yeah,
I'm vulnerable, I'm scared, we're having a war, I'm safe, or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
And they have 9 times out of 10 gone from the one that I choose to exclude to the
Mhm.
one that's totally let in,
Yeah,
because I've got to meet my shadow,
yep,
or I have met my match, or
yep.
whatever it is. It's like, this is where the biggest learning and the biggest trust has come.
Mm.
But something happened yesterday that's still a little bit on my mind. I had this with a best friend. I must have been in my 30s when I lived in Sydney for a while.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, not interested, busy life, whatever. And he's 10 years younger than me. He's
Mm.
from New Zealand. We were both living in Sydney. And cut a long story short, we became best friends.
Mm.
He was a bit of a scallywag. He was into his partying, and he was a bit of a drug addict when we first met. He had a
Uh-huh.
very tough life, children's home, foster care, whatever.
Yeah.
And we became very, very good friends. what happened in that relationship changed my life. And what happened in that relationship is finally, after a life of survival and having to be a little boy, pretending to be a big man, taking care of things that even men shouldn't have to deal with, I'd never had time or space to do my adolescence. So with this guy, we traveled around, we left Australia, we moved to London together, we lived together, worked together, whatever. It was primary relationship. It was absolute love and sometimes absolute hate as well. And what I gained was finally I did my adolescence. And after adolescence, I was safe to do my childhood. And I couldn't be my own self-respecting man until I'd had those blowouts, until I got rid of everything and there was space for me and I could get to know who I am beyond fears, beyond judgments, beyond being a nice Catholic boy, beyond what will people think, beyond everything. And that was really, really, really worth its weight in gold. I would say before that, I had a best friend where what happened with him is we got on a spiritual pathway. He was Jewish and he'd outgrown being Jewish. I was Catholic, I'd outgrown being Catholic. We were looking for more, a whole lot more. And we got on a spiritual pathway, mainly through theosophy. This was in this was in the mid-'80s where it all kicked off. So that was all fine. I moved abroad, traveled the world, and then I met this guy, Christian. And for the first time, the shadow entered my pathway. And my God, did I get to know my shadow. Initially, he played it out for me because I was not touching it with a barge pole. Then I had to own it. Then we had to go into battle. Then we had to go into confusion, rage, and more than anything, it's like, why am I letting myself be treated like this? Why am I treating someone like this? Anyone else, 5% of this and you're chucked. Where with this, we just stayed in there and my God, it was life-changing. The stuff we went through and the stuff that we learned is phenomenal. So this was probably mid-'90s.
Could you give like an example of a story or a situation just to paint a little bit better picture for people who don't get the context?
There are some very, very dodgy ones. What can I say that's not too dodgy?
I'm sure.
Well, I guess
if you want, no big deal.
Well, this is a really important one actually. Is I remember. So we lived together, and in the end, just couldn't do it anymore. So he moved out of the house, and I remember at one stage he contacted me and said, "I want to talk about something." And I said, cool. I wasn't going to be home until late because I was just like really booked with clients, absolutely exhausted. So I had another friend who was over, he wanted to hang out for a bit. So they knew that from the time I got home to the time I went to bed, there's like a 2-hour slot. So hung out with the first guy for half an hour and it was like, fine, done. And then it was Christian and we hung out. So his name, didn't mean to say his name, but never mind. So I think, had I had a glass of wine or was it only him that had been drinking? I don't remember. But on a regular basis, it would, we would have really honest, we knew each other inside out. We probably still know each other inside out at the core. So we had a conversation, and what used to sometimes happen in conversations would be that he would take something beyond where I would meet him. So he'd cross a boundary, and I know that if I met him there, he'd raise it, and it would get ugly. So with this one, I don't remember what it was, but he said something, and by now, so I was naked, so I got in bed, and he came over to hang out and chat and whatever. So we hung out, and then he said something, and it crossed the boundary. He left the room, and even though I was just totally naked, I just thought, I'm not going to stand for this. So I went downstairs, and I said, no, that's not on. And before I knew it, he punched me in the face. And I don't remember the details about what it was or what it said. And again, before I knew it, we were trying to kill each other. And we wrecked the whole downstairs of, I had a nice house in Muswell Hill. We pretty much wrecked the place. And I thought, and I'm not violent, it's not my thing. I was, I've had lots of mental health issues, including OCD, and that was all about not harming anyone. But I lost it. And I just thought, I am not going to stand for this. So, cut a long story short, there was a lot of fighting, and the third guy was there and he was trying to break it up or do something or whatever. But it was like we had lost it. This was beyond control, and this was just raw rage. Or maybe it was raw pain, or maybe it was raw expression, or maybe it was raw love, or maybe it was stuff that we've been saving for who knows what it was. But we wrecked the place. And I decided, I think I got my friend, or maybe I called the police before the neighbours did. After he was thrown out, he came back, I don't know how much later, dismantled the bricks from the next door neighbour's wall to throw through the window.
Oh my God.
And we ended up, by that night, we were both in different hospitals. And that was just one incident in our relationship. It wasn't generally a violent relationship at all. But I've probably been more violent with him than anyone in my life. What we held each other true to was the utmost of goodness, I guess. It's like I knew when he was selling out. He knew when I was selling out. And it was not an option that we sell out on ourselves or each other or on our integrity in the way that we live life. Meanwhile, we used to party and rave and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we had lots of friends. We had, in those days, the business was going well. He worked with me for a while. We shared everything, absolutely everything. And it was primary relationship. There are times when he had a girlfriend, I had a girlfriend, we both had girlfriends, that was all fine. But yeah, there are times when we lost it. And I don't remember if it was after that, but I remember at some stage saying, look, yeah, I also want to get together. I also want to talk about this. I also want to get it, because there's something going on that I'm not getting. There's something here, and I'm not letting go of the bit until I've got it. And I remember saying to him, I can't see you unless there's someone else there, because and our minds were so precise with so many details and so many arguments, and also we were so hungry for information, hungry for facts, hungry for more pieces of the puzzle to come together. So it was huge. After that, he organised a counsellor, so we had a third party, and we went for a little while, and then he stopped. But it was that important. It was really, and that's one of the many incidents. We'd give talks together about things. We were in the press together and stuff. So there's a lot of goodness. He is so sharp. He would be around a person for a few seconds and he would know exactly who they are and what they're scared of. And he'd be able to toy with that. And that can be used in the positive, that can be used in the negative. And that's all fine, possibly depending on the fear factor or the love factor or the self-preservation factor. But the relation, I guess I haven't been scared of having relationships with other blokes, not sexual relationships, just best friend relationships, tell the truth relationships, relationships with depth. I haven't been scared. So what happened yesterday, I haven't heard from him. So we met in, say, 95, I think it was. I haven't heard from him for a few years until a month ago, maybe, something like that. And it was quite a shock, and I needed to sit with it. It's like, do I wish to open my life up to this? And I sat with it, and I sat with it, and I feared it, and I was excited by it. It's the most addictive, abusive, enlightening experience of my life.
Mm.
Like, wow. And then yesterday on the way home from a men's group, actually, where I talked some of it through, I was very clear that it's not time.
Mm-hmm.
I was really scared of the words to use,
Mm.
being reduced into something.
Mm.
I was also already grieving my own boundary
Yeah.
and something coming to an end, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. It's life. It's life
Yeah.
force.
Yeah.
And I realized that, and if it wasn't for that phase in my life, amongst other phases, I wouldn't be the man I am today. I
Yeah.
needed to go that dark, that deep, that vulnerable, that out of control. But yesterday I sent a text saying, I love you. And it's just not time for me to open this up. And I
Mm.
know that if and when it is time for me to make contact with you, it might be too late and you might already be close to me. And I have to accept that.
Mm.
But again, it's like there's boundaries, and
Mm.
boundaries is probably one of the most important lessons I have learned in my life.
Mm.
My God.
Interesting. So on boundaries, I think that's a topic we could probably talk about for hours. Um, and first and second of all, just thanks for sharing that story. I think it's good. I really appreciate that. Um, I with boundaries, I think there might be some confusion for people in the sense of, oh, I put up these walls and I don't let anyone in.
Yeah.
Um,
That was my confusion. That was
yeah.
exactly my confusion.
So,
I believed that boundaries were barriers,
hmm,
and I believed that only bad, selfish people had boundaries because they
hmm,
were keeping everyone out, and what are they hoarding or hiding?
hmm,
Um, what I realized later that was that boundaries are actually very intimate places where people meet. It's not a place of exclusion and denial.
hmm,
It's a very intimate place of this is where we will meet. This
hmm.
is where we'll be real together. And once we've met, then we can really start the dance of how we wish the boundaries to move.
Yeah. And so for someone who's on the beginning of their journey of learning self-love and self-care with boundaries, what would be your advice to them?
I would say the first thing to do with anyone or anything that you feel that you need a boundary
Hmm.
or something's outgrown or something's not right is take a deep breath and feel it. Does
Hmm.
this feel like a drain or does it feel energizing?
Hmm.
Does this feel like love or
Hmm.
does this feel like fear or pain or whatever's going on? And it's not on or off, good or bad. It's
Hmm.
where is safe? Where is a good, safe place to start? Not to, as I believe a lot of boys do, is what's expected. How can I put on a good show?
Yeah.
How can I make people want to like me or follow me? Because that's not meeting anywhere. That's
Hmm.
just putting on some razzmatazz.
Yeah.
So there's a fix of attention. That's
Yeah.
not intimate. There are no boundaries and there's no relationship there. It's
Yeah.
where can I genuinely meet? And it may not be anywhere too intimate or exciting initially, but at
Hmm.
least it's real and
Hmm.
at least two people meet. And from that place, it could be, do you want to do something? Or
Hmm.
I'm scared of you because, or
Hmm.
let's this, or I really like that, or your friend that said so and so, there's something a bit dodgy about him, and I hope you don't mind me crossing the boundary and saying it. But
Yeah.
it's like then there can be some real sharing of who I am, where I'm coming from, what I like, what I'm scared of, and where I want something to go, if
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about feel your way.
Hmm.
Where I feel a lot of boys, and for me, that I think I said earlier on, it's nothing to do with age; it's to do with the stage. And for me, a boy is more surviving and doing, where a man is more living and being. And I
Mm.
would say a lot of boys will go straight into the head, straight into how do I fix this? How do I dominate this? How do I not get excluded? Or how do I blah, 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 blah. And it's all manipulation rather
Mm.
than how can I be real here?
Mm-hmm.
Or even, is this where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
How many men actually think, no, you do look like you're having a great time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's your type of a great time, and I'm having a shit time, and I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
But so many blokes, it's like, well, this is what's going on. This is where the buzz
I
is.
gotta be
How do I
here.
sell out on myself to be included? What's
Yeah.
the point?
Fear of missing out and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'd say the two main things that most of the men that I work with suffer from, or the things that control them even, are a fear of humiliation
Mm.
and a fear of abandonment.
Mm.
Now, ain't that just the playground? Or even in the families, I would say a lot of men that I've worked with, their biggest devastation is when their mother withdrew from them.
Mm.
It's not even the shouting and the telling off.
Yeah.
It's the abandonment. It's the withdrawal. That's what really hurts. And
Interesting.
I would say it's exactly the same today, irrespective of the age of the men. And sometimes it's not just their wives or their
Mm.
mothers. It could even be if their daughter withdraws from them. It's like, I can't deal with this.
Mm.
It's so, so, so powerful. And this is where it's important to learn how to communicate
Yeah.
and to take care of what's really going on rather than making the drama in hand what's really going on. And for me, again, to follow the feeling is when that's going on, take a deep breath and follow the feeling, and it will probably in a split second take you to the time of abandonment that needs to be included or healed or whatever it is,
Mm.
rather than escaped from. Because life is going to bring me situations and opportunities to say,
Yeah.
heal this, set yourself free, and we'll
Yeah.
give you some more.
I mean, it hits closer to home than I wish in a lot of ways for me. I mean, even currently, I'm going through some just painful things in my personal relationship with my current girlfriend, and um, certain things she's done, she's withdrawn, right? And those are things I can't control. But man, did it make me flare up, and I was just like, what is going on?
How did you flare up? What did you do?
Oh, I mean, I initially got angry, then I got super depressed, but it was this feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
That's what was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And when I confronted that and just felt it and like knew it would pass and knew that I wasn't a victim, that I had put myself in this situation, you know, I don't know. I completely faced the pain.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm better or the situation is better. Um, oh, no, I'm better. I don't know if the pain is less, but I'm
Yeah.
handling it differently, if that makes sense.
Different perspective. It
Yeah.
makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And I needed to learn a long time ago that what other people are doing, they're not doing to me or at me. It's
Mm,
just where they're coming from at that
exactly.
moment.
Yeah.
And it may have nothing to do with me,
Yep.
or it
Yes.
may have everything to do with me. Now, how do I find out? Ask.
Yeah.
And also, I found that in arguments, or the thing that really helps to keep real
Hmm.
in a situation of conflict, is one of the most painful things that really can make a person go berserk is when there is abandonment, and it could be forever.
Mm.
And what I always tell the people I work with is, if you're going to do it, then agree with each other that I need to get some space now, and in 10 minutes or tomorrow or next week or whatever, we will get together
Mm.
and pick it up again. because when people know when there's going to be a reconnection, it's so different to, oh my God, this is the end. She will never remember the good times. I'm going to be labeled as this. It's not fair. How do I put on a good show so she remembers who we really are and what's going on? She doesn't love me, but she doesn't realize it's me she doesn't love. It's this, and this issue. I need to, oh my God. As soon as we know when we're going to get together again, then all of that can go on hold, and there's space for me to deal with my pain or my joy, my relief, and then we get together. It doesn't mean we're going to fix it. It could be we're together just to say hi, and are we ready to talk about it? Fine. Let me hear your feelings and your needs, and I'll tell you my feelings or needs. Or it might be, I'm still not ready. I need a little bit more time. But just to know when the check-in point is can really diffuse so much madness.
Interesting.
The other thing that I use, have you heard of Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication?
I just heard that name, man, just the other day. But please unpack it.
So what I recommend, I mean, there's a book and there's a training. What I recommend so many of my people do is just go on YouTube, and there is the whole course for free. And it basically, I mean, I'm by no means an expert. I use it, and I pass it on to other people. But it's very much just naming. It's a way of unenmeshing, owning where you're coming from, and not inflicting anything on anyone. So it would be when you blah, blah, blah. So it's naming the action. I felt blah, blah, blah. So it's not you made me feel. It's when this thing happened, this was my feeling. So the feeling is being owned. And then it would be I need to, I don't know, it could be feel safe, it could be information, it could be whatever it is. So you're stating the need. There's no have to, there's no enmeshment, there's no owing, there's no violence. It's just stating, owning and stating a need. And then comes the request, would you be willing to blah, blah, blah. So it breaks it down, and there are separate individual people with the space to be true and the language to connect with clarity and with choice. It is worth its weight in gold. Absolutely brilliant.
It reminds me of how would you state it? It's like we called it a clearing, but essentially a confrontation, and just what's the data? How are you feeling from it? What do you need?
This is like the MKP way of clearing.
That style. And
it's good stuff. It's very, very good stuff.
The biggest thing that whole method really revealed to me was my projections and my judgments on other people were really all about me. I'm like, oh, that's a painful realization when you wake up in the morning.
Is it though? Or is it just gift-delicious? It's goodness. Because as far as I'm concerned, so let me quickly show you this. So I've been running men's groups for 16 years now. And with all the whole passing it on thing, you can download this from mensgroups.co.uk. So there's some spiel, there's the check-in round, so people can just download it and use it and just have a men's group or a conversation with your friend or whatever straight away. And then there are ground rules. The final ground rule. Yeah, exactly. It's just there straight away. Don't need to do a training. Don't need to be smart or clever. Here it is. Get on with it. Grow. Because, even men who have good friends, they don't know how to get aware, how to take it deeper, how to take it more personal, how to enrich the relationship. So my favorite ground rule is number 11, live beyond the rules. Playing small to be safe or light may keep you small and stuck. Exploring the edge of your comfort zone may bring challenges and help you grow. Live beyond your fears, fantasies, and old restrictions to express a more authentic you in daily life. So basically, we've got ground rules about confidentiality, respect, taking part,
Yeah.
being honest, own what
Yeah.
you say, stay in the present, blah, blah, blah. And the final ground rule is play bigger than the rules. So you get it wrong, you're at the edge, and you grow. Because for me, the object of the exercise isn't to be small and nice and everything's fluffy. It's to meet at the edge and to grow.
Yeah.
I want to be where it's ugly.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. And that's
beyond ugly is absolute beauty.
that's the mark of a leader or a man I want to be in the presence of, is someone who embraces and moves towards discomfort, and doesn't run
As
away
long
from
as it's not a death wish.
it. Well, yeah, I mean, of course, but it's like I mean, if you're jumping off a cliff without a wingsuit, like, yes, you're just going to commit suicide. There's obviously that, but I mean, I find that attribute or that type of mentality so attractive, because it reveals that you've done your own work and that you're continuing your work because you haven't arrived.
There is no arrival.
I know, but it's just.
But my God,
people act like it.
I love that there are kind of landing pads or rest areas. It's like, now I have space to reconsolidate and to take part with life differently.
Yeah.
And I wonder, for example, because my heart is hurting since sending that text yesterday.
Yeah.
I've got all sorts of stuff up. It's like, I want this guy in my life, but I know it's not time. It's not right. It's not true to have this guy in my life. So my heart is hurting. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
I could take it all on. Give me more trouble. Give me more stuff. Let me be a warrior. It's not all about being a warrior all the time.
Yeah.
And I wonder, now that I've got a boundary with this guy, whether I will somehow change, because his gift made me the man that I was, going through my adolescence, going through my childhood, and finding myself in alignment and ready for action. That was a huge, huge gift. Now, with this boundary, I wonder whether somehow my adolescence or that part of me is more in the background to draw upon, and there's more space for me to move on somehow. Because, like I said in the men's group last night, there are very, very few people in the world I would rather be with. And I had the audacity to basically tell them all that they are all a poor replacement. And it's like, if that's not the truth, then what am I doing there? I had to tell the truth. So I wonder, in naming that, saying that, and having the boundary, whether at some level I'm saying to everyone else, okay, I've got over it. I've made space to meet other people, and for people not to be a poor second best, but for me to allow people to be more and bigger and better in my life, and maybe for me to allow myself to have more. So that's a boundary. And I wonder whether putting that aside will just allow more. I don't know. But I also, going back to what we were saying about groups and how some people go for popularity, a lot of people will really want to get in there and find some pain and process and cry and shout. And it's like, quit with the dramatics. Like, get real. It's not about the noise. It's not about the drama. Surely it's about showing up with an open heart, and whatever needs to pass has the safety and the space.
Yeah. I love it. What I'm curious is, so this current situation for you and the boundary you've put out, how would the scenarios obviously would be different for you, but like 10 years ago, Kenny, how much pain and struggle would have this situation caused for him compared to you now?
I'm in a very, very different stage in life to 10 years ago. Plus, I traveled for 5 years. I'm an ex-refugee from Uganda. I've had lots of movement and drama and blah, blah, blah. 10 years ago would have been the early days with my now wife. And I would have still had more of a traveler spirit, more of a free spirit in a lot of ways. and I was still, now I'm running about a dozen groups a month, which is a lot, and I've got loads and loads of clients. I'm very, very busy. Then, and also I'm doing a lot more in the media these days. Then I didn't want so many groups. I didn't want so much media, and my clients were different, doing different things. So now I am a lot clearer on my pathway, on my purpose, in my relationships with my wife. I have chosen not to have children, and thankfully my wife was the same, because if I had kids, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing, because I give it so much. I love it so much. It's like my child. I wouldn't take that away from a child. So 10 years ago, I was a lot freer, a lot more frivolous, a lot more adventurous, a lot more carefree. My parents were younger. I've matured, and I've made a lot of very important choices of the people in my life, and the way I wish to live my life. So then I was a different person. I probably wouldn't want or need the boundary. I'd probably be out a lot more, making a lot of noise and having a lot of fun, where now I am out a lot, but it's more often than not in the forest with my closest friends. And that's what I love these days. And it's not partying, and it's not making a lot of noise. It's a lot more intimate. It has a lot more depth. And it's being in a committed relationship has really made a difference to me. I'm just used to being a traveler and coming and going. And, I remember before opening my eyes, planning my day. Who will I see? Where will I go? Thinking that I'm still in Fiji. And then I remember opening my eyes and it's like, oh my God, I'm in Thailand. Now I need to get my head around, a totally different day, and grieve that I won't be able to see my friends who are in Fiji because I was so excited about the day. It was like that, where now I really want stability. I really want structure. I really want order. I want to know, to be frank, I basically said to my wife, it's like, okay, she's given up work. We've got 2 months roughly. Take my business, do all the admin, organize it. You be my pimp, so I don't need to think about everything, and I will just go wherever you say to run the groups, do the trainings, do the media, see the clients, and I don't need to think about it. I will exercise, I will sleep, I will eat, I will, but someone else manage it, because I can't. It's too much. So as far as I'm concerned, the only mental health issue I'm left with now is dyscalculia, which is all about numbers, time, distance, weight. When it's go down there, turn left at the tree, turn right at the post. But I remember too. It's the same with computers. It's following the sequence, and you click this and I can't do it. I cannot do it. I can't do filing. So I know my weakness. I could work it through. Or I could not bother. And I'm quite happy not bothering, because I love what I do. And someone else can do the admin and the organization. And she'll do a great job. And then she'll find me a new PA and she'll pass it on, and there'll be a great system. But my pressure isn't doing the work and meeting people in sometimes quite horrific places. That's not a pressure. That's a love. My pressure is time, numbers, getting from A to B, management and organization, getting enough sleep, and getting the backup. So the me now is really excited about structure. He then just couldn't cope with anything like that, and needed to be such a free spirit. So the luxury of freedom is just not a luxury anymore. I want the luxury of structure. Maturity is just wonderful. God, it rocks. It's so, life gets better and better and better. And so does love. My God, love gets better as well.
Well, I would like to transition a little bit in what we're talking about. For men who are at, let's just say, the beginning or middle of their journey of self-care or growing in confidence and boundaries, what are some resources or things that you would usually tell people to look into, or kind of foundational pillars, let's just say? I really like to give people tangible things to walk away with.
So I try and come up with half a dozen off the top of my head.
Okay.
Great places for people to start.
Yeah.
So nonviolent communication.
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
such an amazing tool. So
Yeah.
on YouTube, Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication. I would so I've got a website, themanwhisperer.co.uk.
Yep. Yep.
On the website, there is a free download of a personal discovery questionnaire. The personal discovery questionnaire asks all the questions about your life in a certain order from a certain angle. Filling that in will give any person a picture of their story, so they no longer have to be their story. They can look at their story and see the different cycles, the different patterns. I find that 9.9 times out of 10, people have not just a repeating pattern of what happens, but they also have characters who replace each other. So I can see very, very clearly from childhood to date that this person is replacing that. And it might quite simply, it might be the role they play. More often than not, it would be the way that they feel about themselves around this person. I feel wonderful, I feel bullied, whatever it is. So get to know your story rather than being your story, and observe the patterns, the cycles, and everything else that's going on. Look at the picture, know the picture, and then choose to live beyond that picture and to write the script. Because again, I would say the unconscious boys know how to survive incredibly well, and will keep attracting generally the same old story to survive, because that way they prove that they have to survive these things, and they do what they're best at, which is survive these things. Where a man will think, wait a minute, I know this. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to try this way that I know nothing about, and I could so make an ass of myself. It could get me so in trouble, so in danger. I am so out of my comfort zone that I need to go and try that. Don't have to do it alone. Could do it with friends, do it with other people that know, do it with other people that have been through it. But it's to choose life rather than choosing control. So that's the second one. Third one, calmer, easier, happier parenting. There's a friend of mine, Noelle Janice Norton, who is a huge parent and expert. It's where I learned all my parenting skills. Now, on her website, there are all sorts of freebies and downloads and everything else. But the parenting skills I picked up, I use in the boardroom with boardroom bullies. I use everywhere, from reflective listening to descriptive praise, how to prepare for success. There are so many things. So loads of information on there.
Interesting.
And then there's the slightly more spooky stuff. Have you heard of Dan Millman?
No, I haven't.
He was best known for The Way of the Superior Man, best-selling book, and then it turned into a movie. Dan also put out a book called The Life You Were Born to Live, and there's an app. If you type in The Life You Were Born to Live or Dan Millman, it will come up. It's just spooky. It works on numerology, and you get your numbers right, and my God, it will tell you this, as far as this system is concerned, this is your blueprint. This might be the way that you think. It might be the way your life goes. And for me, with all of these things, whether it's numerology or astrology or whatever, none of them own me. None of them are telling me, this is your story. You may as well sleep now, because it's written, so why bother? As far as I'm concerned, it's feedback saying if you remain unconscious, if you don't do anything, then it's very likely that your life will follow this script. And it'll either be the unconscious script that's been going on, or it'll be something like this. So for me, feedback, and the feedback is empowering. And if there's something I think, no, I don't want that, then what do I need to do to not have that? It gives me power.
Interesting.
And then for me, there is something very, very, very powerful in, is this me right now? Or what would love do right now? And one of the key, most efficient tools that I learned is, rather than trying to find me out there, you know, the way a lot of people go traveling to find themselves. Meanwhile, they're in their rucksacks all the time. Finding myself is inside. I mean, with all my travels, I've certainly been challenged by the different cultures and the different ways, and I've had to examine my values and where I'm coming from. But quite simply, it's me in this moment right now saying, is this me? Or do I no longer need to be this person? Do I no longer need to have an instant panic grin when someone looks at me? Because that way I'm going, I'm fine, you're fine, we're safe, we're not going to harm each other, are we? You know, it's that fearful manic grin.
Yeah.
It's not me anymore. I don't do it anymore. And yesterday, before speaking about my friend in the men's group, my first request was that no one smiles at me. I don't need to automatically collude with people's nervous grins or anything like that. So I didn't want smiling. I wanted reality. But for me, it's, am I being true? Is this actually me right now? And if it's not, then letting it go and making space for whoever I'm growing into to grow into. Yeah. And then the next question in any situation is, what would love do here? And love might do something incredibly courageous. It might do something that might be betraying someone or something. But if it's love rather than fear, or love rather than manipulation, then it's doing that, being true to yourself. Now, when I was talking about the way that men or boys go straight into the head and then put on a good show, and before they know it, they're excluded from their lives because the panic button's been pressed and here's my act to deal with this.
Yeah.
That is the biggest spell that I break with men, with a very, very, very simple technique. Now, I find that when people go into their heads, they're not breathing and they're no longer around. There's no connection. It's, I've retreated, I'm working it out, and I'm going to fire you with some crap. So we're all safe and we can survive this. So what I say is, as soon as people find, whether they're alone or with someone else, as soon as they're lost in their heads trying to figure something out, in the split seconds that you know you're in the head, take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, think, thank you for reminding me who I used to be. So used to be puts it in the past, and there's space in the present to show up. And then as you breathe out, engage with what's in front of you, which could be the washing up or your child or something that needs fixing or whatever it is, but engage in the present moment, where usually what I used to do was stay up there and carry on with the secrets and lies. What will people think? What do they think? What do they think of me? Lost in space, totally lost in space. And then I would throw my fantasy at them. Is there space for me or them? No. And then I'd get more nonsense back. And that's where it would happen. It would be some sort of a head game. But the biggest thing, and for me, it's like, if I'm not present and connected, then I need to take a breath immediately. If I'm not present and connected, then I'm going to attract trouble rather than life.
Yeah.
If I'm present and connected and intimate to meet life, then life will bring me choices. They'll bring me signs and temptations to either say yes, please, or no, thank you. For me, it's all about being present and connected in this moment. It's not about do another training or work hard and stuff yourself up and then go on holiday and play
Yeah.
hard. What's the point? Life is here and now. Consciousness is here and now. Choice is here and now. The present and the past are actually here and now from this perspective. So you
Mm.
may as well turn it around here and now rather than going on another workshop.
Yeah. Being present is, oh, I'll slaughter it, but I was listening to Marcus Aurelius's meditations, and there was one statement in there that he talks about how you can take a man's future and you could take a man's past, but you can't really take his present. Or no, I'm flipping it. I don't know. It's just essentially at the core, it was just like you have to be here right now,
Yeah.
and that's something that rings very true with me in my life.
Yeah.
I do not want to let anything hijack the fact that I'm breathing and feeling and emoting right now in this moment. So,
do you find a pattern of when you find you're not here and now? When do you leave?
oh, when I'm scared, when I feel helpless, when I'm stressed, what are some other times? When I'm people pleasing. those are
Any
those are
any particular people or types of people or situations, or is it across the
I'm
board?
I mean, family's a great one that makes me not present. I get it. I get in my head like we were just talking. So that's always a fun one to like try to be present with my family. That's the main one that popped up there. But,
Family's a funny one.
yeah.
It's the final frontier.
Oh my God. You're telling me, Jesus.
But my God, they are the ones that we can't get rid of, and the lessons that will be learnt
they
or
will
unlearnt.
they will test everything that you believe to be true, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
thank God for them. As
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, they are the ones that I will have chosen to be my family this time around, because we've
Mm,
got stuff that we need to work through, not to necessarily even find peace or resolution,
yeah.
but it might quite simply be my acceptance.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all that's needed.
Yep. That's good.
Or to even just tell the truth. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Very often, my question is, how do I break the spell rather than how do I survive this? Or how do I
Mm,
fight this one through? It's like, what
I
do I
love
need to
that.
break the spell?
That's good.
And
I
yesterday,
really like
before saying anything, what I needed to break the spell was to say, don't smile at me.
that. Yeah. Yeah. That's I could feel that. Um, man, this is really good. So I'm trying to think. These are all really good tools for people. Are there any other ones you want to throw in there before we start heading towards the end of the tunnel?
Hmm. Learning to breathe.
Mm,
Because a lot of boys, I work with men, so, it would be unfair, girls, women as well,
yeah.
but I work with
Target
men.
audience is men, so we're
Yeah.
good. We're good.
So when they start, and it's a brand new thing usually because it's so trained to be in the head, be a good boy, not be
Uh,
criticized, not be found out. What are little boys made of? Slugs and snails and puppy dogs' tails. As
mm,
soon as you're born, you're bad and you're going to be trouble and you're going to make a noise and you're going to make a mess. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
That's the way it is these days. So boys get told off, boys get abandoned, blah, 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 and it's not nice. So
Mm,
either a lot of them will turn into boys that if I want attention, then I'll do something bad, then I'll get attention.
mm,
Or they'll turn into, I can't bear negative attention, so I'll second guess and work it out and figure out how to be good, work out what you're thinking, etc., etc., and then they
mm,
go straight into the head. So what I have taught people to do, as soon as they're ready to get out of their head and to get into their bodies and into present reality, is every time they cough, sneeze, burp, fart, gurgle, every time their body does anything,
mm,
take a deep breath. Just
Interesting.
practice, take a deep breath. And then it extends to every time you go through a doorway,
Mm-hmm.
take a deep breath. So it's just getting into a zone where it's
Yeah.
normalized to be breathing. And then that can extend to every time you see a doorway, take a deep breath. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just using the environment, using your own body to get used to breathing into your. And so many men, it's like, are you breathing? Of course I'm breathing. It's up here somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's from down here. This is
Yeah.
my being.
Yeah.
So it's just to
Yes.
get present and connected. And taking a deep breath gets people here. The
Yeah.
only other time, which is such a gift, instead of getting here, it follows the feeling to the scene of the crime, the part that needs to be included and healed.
Yeah.
That's really good information.
Yeah.
And I'm not able to get present and connected, but my tragedy in the playground keeps coming up, then
Yeah.
I know I've got tragedy in the playground work to do somewhere.
Yeah.
Because all that's saying is, deal with me, set me free, and I'll set you free for a better life. It's quite
Yeah.
simple, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot encourage people enough to really focus on their breathing. That is such a huge tool. Yeah. I,
And surely the
oh.
final bit has to be, get it wrong. Get it so wrong.
No, you have to get it perfect the first time.
Get rejected, get humiliated,
Mm,
make an
yes.
absolute arse of yourself,
Yes.
get it wrong.
Fail.
Because then you're playing big enough to be
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
And my God, as the more I am me, the quality of people I attract is outrageous. But,
Mm-hmm.
it took a lot to leave the victim club. And the victim club are, I guess as adults, it might be the drinkers or the druggers or whatever it is, because,
Yeah.
everyone's welcome and we will
Yeah.
stay until the end and you're my buddy and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
that's all
Yeah.
fine. But my victim club started when I was very, very, very young, and I was a nice, enmeshed, codependent mummy's boy. Just as, that's how it was supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
And therefore, very aware of not only, well, not my emotions, but all the women's emotions and other people's emotions. And with that, super sensitive. And with that, it's like I feel everyone's pain and I can't cause pain. And I have to be this impotent, nice, small person that will save people and be empathetic, and everyone will see as good. What an addiction that is. So, from that, the only people who will not have boundaries, which I thought were barriers, who will not say anything uncomfortable or
Mm.
cause any harm in any way, will be the victims. And the victims will never abandon, will never leave, and will keep everything safe and everything in a sad, painful limbo.
Mm.
Now, how could I, as a nice Catholic mummy's boy, not that I'm Catholic anymore, how could I leave the victim club? How could I be such an absolute bastard that these people who are my chosen family, that I will abandon them to move on?
Mm.
That's against the rules. That doesn't work. What I realized was that the greatest gift that I could give the victim club was to get them off my shoulders and to have them either walking beside me or in front of me or
Mm.
behind me as a separate person.
Mm.
And for me to be walking my path,
Yeah.
which does mean abandonment, betrayal, etc. From that perspective. From my perspective, it's being true to myself and demonstrating, yes, it's dangerous. It might be considered stupid to walk your path and leave the victim club and not be small anymore. But
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And if you want to do it, then I'm there with you. But I can't collude with you being small and in pain anymore, because I don't want you to be small and in pain. I
Mm.
don't want to be small and in pain. And if I'm colluding, then I'm saying, yes, that's the way to live a good life, when I don't believe that's the way to live a good life. So
Interesting.
that was a big one, to leave the victim club and to play big,
Yeah.
to play stupid,
Mm.
to play dangerous. But
Mm.
one of the greatest things about the men's groups, or the way that I facilitate my groups, and like I said, mensgroups.co.uk, there are videos, there's all the information that you need. You can go off and do your own. One of the biggest things for me is if someone comes with an issue, it's not quick, let's fix this person, or let's process this person, or whoopee, we have a drama in here. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Everyone gets the chance to say, when I was in this situation, this is how I succeeded, or this is how I failed, or this is how I avoided it, or whatever it is. So everyone can learn from everyone else's experience. It's not about fixing, saving, or hierarchies. It's about, this was my experience. So everyone can listen, everyone can learn from everyone else's experience, and everyone can make choice, can make safe choice. And it, like, in the men's groups, there are the hugest things that come up. Recently, there have been quite a few men who are in love with their children, who aren't getting on with their wives. And can they leave? Can they take the trouble at home? Where would this leave their relationship with their kids? And, how to manage that, which is a huge thing. Yeah. And fathers, so many these days, I know so many good men, 16 years later, a lot of my young guys who came to the first groups are now fathers. They've moved on. So much has happened in their lives. But what about the father's issues? What about the father's mental health issues, emotional health issues? What about the stuff that you're not allowed to talk about or even think about?
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of fathers recently saying, we want something for us. Over and above their closed groups, their open groups, and everything else they do, we want something for us. So I mentioned Noel Janice Norton earlier. Yeah. So Noel and I have basically got together, and in September, we're launching a fathers group. And then it's going to go online, because a lot of the things I do these days are online, so people from all over the world can join in. And the fathers get to learn from other fathers, not only about children and wives and in-laws, but also to unlearn some of the things from their own or their partner's parenting, so they can do it their way and bring out the best in their children. It's not surviving parenting. It's not negotiating who's going to do what. It's stepping in with love and awareness and managing the situation, including their own demons. And it could be the demons about their jealousy or sibling rivalry or exclusion from their families. Or it could be, my stuff is coming up. My kid is cool, and I wasn't cool, I was bullied. Now that's come up. Or my kid is being bullied, and how can I have a kid that's being bullied because I was so cool all my life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anything and everything could come up. Yeah. Or my brother brings his children up like scallywags. Meanwhile, I'm raising posh kids. How do I manage this? Yeah. So Men Father is going to be launched. So with my Men Speak Men's groups, it's about men. Check this out. I've had some. Can you see that?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So this is my Men Speak logo, and there's a man speaking and there's a man listening.
Oh yeah, I just saw that.
That's what it's all about. It's not all about speaking. And
that's
with
awesome.
And with the Men Facilitate program, it's how to listen to men. And so many female therapists and coaches and a couple of wives actually have come to Men Facilitate because they want to know how a man's mind works and how to listen to a man. Not fix a man, not laugh at a man, not do what people in the media do with men, but you need to listen. So I've got Men Speak for the groups, Men Facilitate for the facilitation program, Men Father for the fathers and the fathering. We went camping. Was it 2 weeks ago? We do an annual men camp. We do men laugh when we go to comedy. We do men stretch when we've had yoga and stuff. So it's a brilliant brand that just extends to lifestyle of, as a man, what do you need to bring out the best in you so you can contribute to your own life and the lives around you authentically and with real, with power, with real power, and how to get real. So I got these business cards, and it's all about getting real. Don't put on a good show. you know, and the funny thing with I had a batch with clients. They always come in batches. You know, it could be a batch of fathering issues, a batch of bullying issues, a batch of whatever. I had a batch of God, it's totally escaped my mind now. I've gone blank. Sorry about that. What was I going to say?
I'm just kidding.
Real thing.
Hum and think.
Get real. I had a big batch of men who wanted to be, how do I show the world what a man I am? And also, how do I get my relationship right at the same time?
Yeah.
And the batch that I remember now what I was going to say, the batch that I had was couples and men saying, we love each other. Something's not working. I don't know what it is, but we love each other. But, you know, I'm sure there's something we can't see that needs to shift. And with this batch of couples, and by no means am I saying this is everyone, but it was this batch. Quite simply, the bloke needed to be more feminine and true to himself. He needed to get real. He really needed to get real and be the man that he was. And the man that he was actually feminine. That's authentic. And that's a man to respect because he's being true to himself. Meanwhile, the woman was more masculine. Now, if the relationship works with a masculine woman and a feminine man, what's the issue apart from what TV and society says? But given that permission, all those relationships just worked. They fell into place. It was as simple as that. It's not something that they would have necessarily seen from the inside. I can't see my own dramas. I need other people to point them out from the outside.
Yeah.
But what an amazing batch that was. And I remember when I had the batch of men who wanted to be men. Yeah. And they showed up and they just thought, I need to beat my chest and I need to, you know, what do I need to do? Do I need to shout or do I need to cry? I'll do anything.
Yeah.
Don't do anything. Be authentic. Be here and now with me.
That's so interesting. Batches. I like that.
And you know, I wondered, why does God send me clients in batches? And I speak to my therapist friends and they say, yeah, exactly the same. They cut batches. And I thought, surely it's so I get it. Yeah. So I am immersed in this issue that I need to turn around in me and then I can pass it on. Then I can hold a clean space without anything that I think, because it's not about me fixing anyone. I need to hold a clean space, ask the right questions, and not steal people's lessons. Let them uncover things, let things unfold in their power so it belongs to them. And to go back to what I was saying right in the beginning, I was petrified of stealing people's lessons. Their lessons need to belong to them. It makes me less popular and less of a guru and less of a smart ass. But then why would I need to, if I'm there to do this work, to be Mr. Popular Wise Guy, then I should get a different job straight away. That's dirty. That's parasitic.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kenny, I've really appreciated hearing more of your story and just having you on here. I will definitely be putting your website in the description.
Oh, cool.
Are there any other ways that people should get a hold of you or get in touch with you?
The two sites, it's the websites really. So the two sites are mensgroups.co.uk and themanwhisperer.co.uk. Okay. And then there'll be a pop-up and I send newsletters out. And usually there are lots of tips and information and how-to and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
I do a monthly radio show. I do Wednesday at 1 Facebook Live every week. But you can subscribe to YouTube and everything else from those two. That's the place to start, awesome. Really. Are you coming over to the UK at some stage?
I'm sure I'll be there at some point. I'm a traveling person as well, so.
Good. There are so many people because I put you in touch with Fernando, didn't I?
Yep. So looking forward to connecting with him and.
Such a good guy.
Yeah.
Come over. So. I'll share friends.
That's what I like to hear. Well, Kenny, thank you for being on here. I'm going to end this recording at this time. But I just really, really feel honored to have you on, and thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Chuffed to hang out, and I'll see you very soon, I'm sure.
Yes, you will. All right.
Cool. Take it
Bye bye.
easy.